My name is Laura Bennett, and at 61, I carry a secret that would unravel the assumptions of those who think they know me. 3 days ago, I stood on the staircase of my Monterey home, draped in funeral black, the scent of roses and sea salt lingering from my ex-husband Daniel's memorial service. Voices drifted from the dining room, casual, as if grief could be relegated to a sideboard. "Is she still here?" someone whispered. I paused on the final step, unnoticed, a shadow in my own home. Colored stickers marred the furniture. Green on the grandfather clock, pink on the piano bench, orange on the china cabinet. "We can remodel once she moves out," a younger voice, my daughter-in-law Sophie's, mused. "Spa room, maybe a tasting bar." No one saw me. I was invisible, a ghost in a house I'd built. My son Evan sat at the head of the table, his posture echoing Daniel's commanding presence. Sophie glided in with sparkling water, her hostess smile polished. "We're celebrating his legacy," she said. "He built an empire, and now we carry it." Laughter broke like sea foam across the ceiling. My chair had been replaced with a wobbly folding one from the garage. A cousin patted the seat, suggesting I'd be more comfortable in the old laundry room, away from their noise. When I didn't move, an orange sticker appeared on the sideboard beside me. "This one's mine," my grandson declared. I gripped my teacup to steady my hands. They spoke as if I were a curtain. "She only ever made soup," a voice sneered. "He made the company. Let her rest with memories." Another suggested the garden shed for me. Someone asked if my pension checks could be forwarded, prompting cruel laughter. I took a bite of cold chicken, tasting chalk, and swallowed. Listening was my strength, always had been. I listened when the bank called 20 years ago, when the board refused a woman's leadership, when Daniel returned home with silence instead of answers. And I acted when no one watched. My fingers traced the banister where Daniel had carved our initials, now faint from years of salt air. In my cardigan pocket, I felt the familiar weight of paper, a bank letter from Oakland, a proposal draft signed with a name that was mine yet not mine, L. Grayson. Proof I was more than soup. Evan raised his glass, calling the cliffside house perfect for his family post-renovation. Sophie tilted her head. "I'd love the laundry room with a lamp." The Pacific roared beyond the glass. I stood still, letting the ocean's breath carry me. The will reading was imminent. I had a pulse and a plan. 20 years earlier, in Oakland, fog seeped under our bungalow's doors as I pored over invoices at the kitchen table. I ran Seabreeze Catering, delivering box lunches to port offices, enough to keep Evan in sneakers and cover the mortgage. Daniel's marine logistics company, Bennett Pacific Freight, was faltering. 2 major contracts had collapsed, one canceled, the other slashing rates. Night after night, he returned with a loosened tie, shoulders hunched, silence growing heavier. He never asked for help, too proud to admit he was drowning. One night, after Evan slept, I overheard Daniel on the phone. Bankruptcy loomed unless they secured a Los Angeles port contract requiring a 30% reduction in transit times, an overhaul they couldn't afford or plan. When he went to bed, I stayed up, my old logistics experience stirring. Before motherhood, I'd worked in the industry, and I knew its gaps: outdated tracking, inefficient routing. By dawn, I drafted a phased optimization plan, new software, port partnerships, load balancing, to slash delivery times. I signed it L. Grayson, a pseudonym I'd once imagined for a novel, and mailed it from a post office 2 towns away. Days later, Daniel came home, eyes alight. "Someone sent a proposal," he said. "It might save us." I stirred soup, nodding, silent. Ideas needed funding, so I opened a walnut box in my closet, holding my grandmother's emerald necklace, my mother's gold bangles, and Daniel's anniversary diamond brooch. At a Berkeley jeweler, I traded them for a cashier's check to fund the tech upgrades. I told no one. Daniel never asked about the money. Within 6 months, my L. Grayson Model secured the contract, reviving Bennett Pacific Freight. Articles hailed Daniel as a visionary, never mentioning me. I let him be the hero, believing the family needed one. But I kept the proof, bank receipts, the draft, a patent letter, my lifeline for when the tide turned. Back in Monterey, winter light filtered through salt-streaked windows. I woke to muffled thumps upstairs. By morning, my life was reduced to 3 cardboard boxes by the door. Books, photos, a quilt I'd sewn when Evan was born. Evan and Sophie discussed renovations on speakerphone, tearing out carpets, turning my bedroom into a wine bar. Their casual certainty twisted my stomach. In my old room, the bed frame was gone, Sophie's coats filling half the closet. A blue sticker marked my father's antique dresser. "That's mine," Sophie's sister said, tape measure in hand. I asked what was happening, knowing the answer. Sophie smiled. "You'd be more comfortable in the laundry room. Less noise." The laundry room reeked of mildew, lit by a flickering bulb, with a cot under a thin blanket beside a rusted sink. My boxes were shoved there. That evening, Sophie dropped off a towel and generic shampoo like a charity handout. "Dinner's at 7. Eat after everyone else." I nodded, waiting for her heels to fade before sitting on the cot. Laughter and champagne corks echoed from the dining room. I ignored my hunger, reaching under the cot for my sewing cabinet. Its false bottom drawer hid my folder. The L. Grayson proposal, bank receipts, patent letter. These weren't just relics, they were my future. The Pacific's roar reminded me. Tides shift without permission, carrying away the unanchored. I'd been still too long. The next morning, a sharp wind stung my cheeks as I walked 8 blocks to a payphone, my cell service accidentally cut off by Sophie's restructured family plan. I dialed Richard Kane, Daniel's lawyer, but my confidant longer. "It's time," I said. "My office, 1 hour," he replied. At his San Jose office, the bay glittered beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. I placed my leather folder on his oak table. First, the 2003 Joint Trust Agreement listed me as co-founder of Bennett Pacific Freight, not just spouse. Richard's eyebrows rose. Next, bank documents from 2004 showed the jewelry sale that funded the company's revival. Finally, the L. Grayson proposal, my handwriting unmistakable. "We'll need authentication," Richard said. A Stanford handwriting expert arrived, comparing my script to fresh samples. By afternoon, she confirmed the proposal was mine. Under California law, with no transfer agreement, I owned the Grayson Maritime Optimization Model and its residuals. "Do you want the money?" Richard asked. "I want my voice back," I replied. He smiled faintly. "We'll give it to you in a room they can't ignore." The will reading was days away. I stepped into the fog, certain for the first time in years. 2 days later, Richard summoned me back. A new folder awaited, thicker, containing the Stanford analyst's report. My handwriting matched, ink dated to the contract year. The Grayson model, licensed to 27 shipping companies worldwide, generated $8.6 million annually. Mine, legally, as no rights were transferred. A final item lay on the table, a sealed letter in Daniel's handwriting, addressed to me. I didn't open it yet. Richard planned to present the IP evidence post-will reading, ensuring Evan and Sophie couldn't flee before the truth hit. As I left, San Jose hummed with traffic and gulls. The tide in my chest shifted. I wouldn't enter the next room as the laundry room exile, but as the rightful owner. The will reading dawned cold over San Francisco Bay, ferries carving silver wakes. In Cannon Associates' 12th floor conference room, the air was icy. Evan sat near the table's head, watch glinting. Sophie, in a cream blazer, scrolled her phone. Her brother and cousins whispered over my house's floor plan, ignoring me on my folding chair. Richard entered, closing the door deliberately. "We're here to execute Daniel Bennett's final wishes," he began, listing minor bequests before pausing. Clause 13. For each instance of Evan speaking ill of his mother post-death, $500,000 is deducted from his inheritance. A murmur rose. Richard played a recording from my hallway, Evan's voice clear. She's still here. Sophie's. Give her the shed. Laughter. Insults. 27 instances. $13.5 million deducted. Evan's jaw tightened. This is absurd. Richard cut in. Signed, notarized, witnessed. He continued, the estate, real property, accounts, holdings, goes to Laura Bennett. Sophie's phone clattered. Evan stared at me, confusion flickering. Richard opened the second folder. An additional matter. The L. Grayson proposal, authored by Laura Bennett, secured the Los Angeles contract. She owns the model and its $8.6 million annual royalties. Sophie's nails tapped, then stopped. Evan whispered, I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. Richard slid Daniel's letter to me. I broke the wax, reading silently. I asked you to stay anonymous because the board wouldn't follow a woman. I knew you saved us. I'm sorry I let them forget you. I folded it away. Richard concluded, per Ms. Bennett's instructions, non-title residents vacate the Monterey property within 72 hours. Sophie started to speak. I raised a hand. Don't. We're past words. I drove back to Monterey, the ocean at my left, wind in my hair. The house felt lighter. I peeled off their stickers, blue from my father's dresser, yellow from Daniel's armchair, pink from the china cabinet, tossing them in the trash. Boxes piled up, not mine, but theirs. Sophie barked into her phone. Evan trailed, silent. He approached me in the kitchen. Please, Mom, he said, voice raw. You spoke first, I replied. The will listened. By the third day, they were gone, the house quiet except for tape ripping. 3 months later, I sold the Monterey house, its echoes too heavy. I moved to a glass-walled condo in Santa Barbara, the sea always in view. With the first royalty check, I founded the Women Who Built in Silence Fund, grants for women whose work was erased. A carved Monterey oak sign hangs by my door. This home was built by a burden they could not break. The mail carrier laughed, but I smile each time I turn the key. At night, I make soup, the Pacific glittering beyond. I was never fading, just waiting to be heard. Silence can be chosen, but it's not a life sentence. If someone erases you, write yourself back in bold, in your own hand. The only legacy worth leaving is the truth with your name on it.